Welcome, everybody, and good morning, good afternoon, or good evening from wherever you might be watching or participating in this new webinar about diplomacy today, multilateralism for peace, and the specific case of Taijiban. And we will start with a video about a very remote place in the world where one of our speakers is currently located. It is Australia in Canberra.
Is very important part. The humans, we are living in the neighbors and keeping the peace. It should be the most important things people have to search and then get together and then time together and then work together.
It was wonderful. It was very disciplined. You look like a professionals. So I think everybody enjoyed it. And the message, very, very impressive, and it's the need of the time. Peace and love for you and for me, for all the humans.
When you guys were singing today,
Welcome again to this webinar. Today we celebrate the International Day of Multilateralism and Diplomacy for Peace. This day was established on the 12th of December 2018 through a UN resolution and was first observed on the 24th of April 2019. As emphasized in the resolution, the International Day is a reaffirmation of the UN Charter and its principles of resolving disputes among countries through peaceful means. After over 25 years, Taijimen, a civil society organization, still is in its quest for justice in its conflict with the National Taxation Bureau in Taiwan. The commemoration of this UN Day is a good opportunity to think about one more avenue which remains open for a possible solution to the Taijimen case: multilateralism, which involves peaceful negotiations and diplomacy. In their fight for justice, the legal channels, public demonstrations, protests, and petitions that the Taijimen leadership has used for years have now shown their limits. Only a political decision in Taiwan could solve the unresolved Taijimen case, which worriedly tarnishes the image of the country abroad. But there has never been any political will on the part of the Ministry of Finance and the government, even after the final decision of the Supreme Court in favor of Taijimen, and since then either. The only way to activate the necessary political will in Taiwan is through the soft power of the main protector of the country, the United States, as well as other democratic countries that are friends of Taiwan. The American Institute in Taiwan, the de facto US embassy, has the ability and experience to promote religious freedom in the country. They could be the voice and the arm in Taiwan of the US State Department, the US Commission on Religious Freedom, and other influential American institutions. From the 5th to the 11th of April, Chesnur and HRWF organized an information mission to Taiwan with the participation of representatives of human rights organizations from Europe and the US. Thanks to the local logistical assistance of Taiwan Human Rights Think Tank, the New School for Democracy, and Citizen Congress Watch, to check if there could be some support for local partnerships as well, in addition to the international support. During that week, we explored avenues for such possibilities. The case was discussed in conferences in 4 Taiwanese universities, and conversations with their academic boards revealed that they were quite aware of the Taijimen case and the injustice they had been victim of since 1996. However, the mission was not purely academic. It was also advocacy-oriented. The Taijimen case was raised as well during meetings with local human rights NGOs, the National Human Rights Commission of Taiwan, President Chen Chu of the Control Yuan, and mainly the President of the Parliament, Yu Shikun, and his experts. All of them were quite aware of the Taijimen case and knew that it is widely discussed internationally. The Taipei Times largely covered these events, and other media outlets took interviews of the experts of our delegation. We left Taiwan 2 weeks ago with the promise of the authorities that they would operate to find a just, reasonable, and political solution of this long-lasting case. 3 weeks before the UN Day on Multilateralism and Diplomacy, we already started putting it in practice in Taiwan itself. We will, of course, continue to build up and strengthen the international coalition between the countries that are friends of Taiwan and the local actors in Taiwan, while monitoring the efforts made by the political authorities to bring this matter to a just and fair close as soon as possible. Now, I will introduce the first speaker, who is new in our team, and it is Mrs. Maria Varde, who is an anthropologist from Buenos Aires University. The floor is yours, Maria.
Hello, thank you, everyone.
Well,
as an anthropologist studying religious and spiritual discrimination in Argentina, the Taijimen case is one of high relevance for me. From everything I learned about the case, I find it strikingly familiar with what has been happening in other countries in the last decades, where the law is used by governments and anti-cult activists in a twisted manner to criminalize, control, and neutralize ideological minorities, with a strong reliance on the press and its power to manipulate the public opinion. By striking first in the media with false but sensitive information, the public is frightened and led to condemn the groups that are being accused before knowing anything about them. This mechanism allows further violence and legitimizes illegal actions against the targeted groups. Furthermore, in some cases, these actions permit to pass bills to control and decide what beliefs will be considered more tolerable than others. The most alarming outcome of it all is the systematic violations of human rights. This malicious use of the media by the prosecutor who started the Taijimen case, which caused considerable suffering to the disciples of the movement, finds parallels also in Argentina. A decade ago, following the enactment of an anti-cult law in the province of Córdoba, a new and energized anti-cult movement started manifesting itself in Argentina. It has been fueled in recent years by the cooperation of anti-cult activists and a special prosecutor's office under the flag of the National Law Against Human Trafficking. The cooperation works in this way. Anti-cult activists, apostate ex-members, and dissident relatives of religious groups' devotees file complaints of human trafficking for labor and/or sexual exploitation against the religious minorities. Then, the Special Prosecutor's Office takes the case in its hands and starts a preliminary investigation, often ignoring the facts that contradict the accusation. The argument used to accuse religious groups of sexual or labor exploitation in the absence of physical coercion, forced isolation, or life threats is that they practice coercive persuasion on their victims, which is nothing more than another name for brainwashing. When I learned about the absurd accusation of raising goblins in the Taijimen case, I had an immediate impression of déjà vu. There was a clear use of arguments based on imaginary elements of a magical nature, which should remain outside of court cases. In cases in Argentina, groups stigmatized as cults were also falsely accused of practicing black magic rituals. We can also say that brainwashing is a modern name for black magic. Even if coercive persuasion is not a valid argument under Argentine law, the Special Prosecutor's Office resorts to it in order to explain why the alleged victims, the so-called coercive organization in order to explain why the alleged victims of the so-called coercive organizations deny being victims. And the office needs to stick to this argument, given that, according to its records, 98% of the female victims supposedly rescued by them claim not to be victims. If we take into account that the office also has to deal with real cases of human trafficking, the 2% of real victims gives us an idea of how many cases are real and how many are fabricated. And there is a reason for this. That special prosecutor's office gets a bigger budget and more power as it prosecutes more people. As a result, they no longer seek evidence of physical coercion, nor do they need real victims of the groups they wish to attack. They have also increasingly extended their activities from organized crime to spiritual movements stigmatized by their opponents as cults. In addition to the use of similar imaginary elements, I have found other similarities between the Taijimen case and that of the spiritual and religious minorities recently accused in Argentina. The most noteworthy are the spectacular and violent raids, the anticipated detention and indictment of leaders and members, and the media coverage to publicize the actions of the prosecutors. This is a modus operandi that is increasingly popular and on the rise in various countries. It perfectly describes what happened to Taijimen in 1996. This model has been repeated in several cases in Argentina, maybe the most famous being that of the Buenos Aires Yoga School, or BASE, a group of Raya Yoga students. On August 12, 2022, during a quiet philosophy class attended by about 60 people, all adults and on average 60 years old, a spectacular police raid broke into the school classroom and the houses and businesses of 50 other students, several of them located in the same building. The police officers entered breaking the doors and pointing guns to the students. Then, in spite of being offered the keys to the apartments, the police broke every single entrance with rams. The inhabitants of the apartments said that police were clearly looking for money and personal devices, and so it is indicated in the search reports. As it is evident in the photos and videos taken by the students, the police advanced by breaking furniture and throwing everything on the floor, but no person was found in captivity or under any kind of exploitation. After the raids, most of the people raided reported that they had been robbed by the police, who took away jewelry and other items like cameras, printers, and even hair clippers, without mentioning them in the search records. While the students were being held in the building for hours without being told what was going on, the media appeared to have a lot of information. For some reason, there were many reporters and cameramen filming the initial police entrance as well as the exit of the first students. They heard the reporters saying, "Record that, here comes the prostitutes." But what the reporters saw, rather disappointedly, was a group of elderly people being assisted by medical personnel due to blood pressure spikes suffered as a result of the violent situation. More than 8 months later, those who were present in the raid are still afraid, suffer from post-traumatic syndrome, and some of them had to be treated for severe coronary conditions, which started that day. Before performing any forensic examination of the alleged victims, and even before reviewing the elements seized in the raids, mostly money, jewelry, and personal belongings, 19 students and teachers of BASE were detained between August 12 and 13. Those that were above the maximum age at which a person can be detained according to the Argentine law were sent to home imprisonment, but only after more than 2 weeks, which seriously affected their health. The rest were held for 3 months in miserable, violent conditions and without the needed medication for severe illnesses like diabetes and high blood pressure, and their assets were frozen. Once again, all this is reminiscent of the detention of Dr. Hong in the Tai Chi Men case. Nearly all the media reports of the Buenos Aires raid and the subsequent events refer to the yoga school as the cult of horror, or some other variation with the word cult. They told stories of a horrifying cult that made his followers submit by means of deception, mental control, and punishment in order to sexually exploit them and deprive them of all their possessions, as well as being guilty of drug trafficking and illegally practicing medicine. Television programs and newspapers published photos and names of the members of the school and conveniently trimmed excerpts from telephone conversations and personal diaries expressing strange conclusions and biased opinions. Moreover, reporters stood in front of the building for weeks, disturbing the students with insidious questions on camera. These facts show that prosecutors, in addition to making public statements before evaluating the evidence, leaked partial and biased information to the media to make their case more spectacular. That is, as in the Tai Chi Men case, the prosecutors sought public attention and used the media as propaganda tools for their actions. The trait most worth noting of the Buenos Aires case is that 9 women that are considered as victims and as prostitutes by the prosecutor have actively requested to stop being treated like that because they claim that they are not prostitutes and have never been hurt or manipulated by anyone in the school. Additionally, there is no evidence of exploitation by means of coercion of any kind. But according to the prosecutor's office and their twisted brainwashing argument, despite the fact that it supposedly annihilates a free will, the very proof that brainwashing was at work is that it left no traces. If the victim denied being victims, it is because the brainwashing is working well. The use of false arguments, some of them plainly absurd, and the abuse of authority in order to take a case outside the bounds of rationality, while using every resource to harm a group, is a common characteristic that can be seen in cases like Tai Chi Men and the Buenos Aires Yoga School and many others. As scholarly literature about new religious and spiritual movements shows, these kind of procedures are increasing in number and severity. This is why I find the Tai Chi Men case so meaningful and paradigmatic. With the Supreme Court decision and the illegally detained members being financially compensated, it presents a wonderful and encouraging precedent. But at the same time, because of the tax harassment and its consequences that have continued to this day, it is also an example of the great damage the illegal actions of governmental officers can produce to the entire judicial system and the society. For this reason, I would like to conclude by stating that the systematic repetition in different societies of the human rights violations that we saw in the Tai Chi Men case urges us to make these incidents more visible and to denounce them internationally. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Maria, and thank you as well for sharing with us this dramatic case in Argentina that we heard of for the first time a few weeks ago, thanks to Bitter Winter, a series of articles published in Bitter Winter. And you can be sure that we will also work with you on this case. Now I will invite the next speaker, who is Alexander Amicarelli, chairman of the European Federation for Freedom. Sorry, I think I made a mistake. It seems to be, yes, sorry. It's Marco Respinti. I'm sorry. Marco Respinti, director in charge of Bitter Winter, among many other activities. Marco. The floor is yours.
Thank you. The Republic of China, ROC, commonly called Taiwan, has a formidable institution. It is called the Control UN and helps answering the question, who controls the controllers? Of course, this question makes sense only within a democratic regime, and its answer contributes to measuring how democratic a society is. The ROC's Control UN is a case in point. It has, in fact, the power to censor and impeach government officials who may have committed irregularities and crimes in public affairs. It is precisely in this perspective that on August the 1st, 2020, the Control UN established the National Human Rights Commission in Taiwan, NHRC, under the leadership of its president, setting both a moral and a political precedent and example. The NHRC is based on a clear vision. Public officials' wrongdoings are violation of human rights of citizens. The NHRC's mission to prevent abuses, correct them, and suggest the punishment of perpetrators is then a fundamental act of justice and transparency. It serves as yet another distinctive feature to set ROC as a bastion of democracy in the world, especially in a geographical area of the globe where democracy is rare. Of course, however, even the best democracies commit mistakes. On the International Day of Multilateralism and Diplomacy, I would like to focus on a recent important event that happened in the Control UN in Taipei, where the government of ROC resides, as an example of citizen diplomacy, or how private citizens and their organizations can contribute to achieve important international goals, in this case, in the field of religious liberty. On April 11, 2023, just a few days ago, Ms. Chen Chu, president of the Control UN, received a delegation of scholars and observers that Bitterwinter, its parent organization, Center for Studies on New Religion of CESNUR, and Human Rights Without Frontier, HRWF, brought to the country for the 2023 edition of their International Forum of Freedom of Religion or Belief, April 5 to 11. It was the concluding event of a one-week-long set of activities in Taiwan, locally made possible by Taiwan Human Rights Think Tank, the New School for Democracy, and Citizen Congress Watch, chaired by Professor Tseng Chen Yuan. The delegation included representatives from CESNUR and Bitterwinter, Massimo Introvigna, founder and managing director of CESNUR and editor-in-chief of Bitterwinter, and myself, Human Rights Without Frontiers, Willy Fautret, co-founder and director, the European Federation for Freedom of Belief, Rosita Schoriten, the European Interreligious Forum for Religious Freedom, Eric Roux, the Forum for Religious Freedom Europe, Peter Zorer, the Coordination des Associations et des Particulières pour la Liberté de Conscience, Thierry Val and Christine Mir, Soteria International, Camelia Marin, the Fundación para la Mejora de la Vida, la Cultura y la Sociedad, Ivana Jona Pelado, the Italian Islamic Association As Salam, Davide Suleiman Amore, and American scholar Donald Westbrook from San Jose State University and the University of Texas in Austin. The conductive rationale of the delegation's visit was the observation of Taiwan, both in absolute terms and in comparison with other countries of Far East Asia and the Indo-Pacific area, especially the People's Republic of China. The latter, unlike Taiwan, is in fact home to daily blatant discriminations, harassments, persecutions, illegal detentions, infringement of the rule of law, violence, slave labor, deportation, tortures, and extrajudicial killings, as well as threats to exiles and neighboring nations. The Western delegation made, in fact, no mystery to be a loyal friend and a great supporter of the ROC. Of course, not in political terms, because none of the scholars and observers in the groups deals directly with politics, but for its defense of religious liberty and human rights. They came as friends, we came as friends, they insisted, we insisted, and observed Taiwan's situation and problems as friends. Persuaded that no country is perfect, they detected problems even in the ROC, conscious that it would be arrogant for a delegation of simple observers coming from foreign countries to dictate solution to the ROC. They nonetheless urged the ROC to find its own way to finally settle still open problems, to avoid both their malicious exploitation by its enemies and to secure its democratic position as a role model. For this reason, the response publicly given by the controlled yuan to the friendly exhortation of the delegation was invaluable. Ms. Chen underlined that all misdeeds by ROC's public officials as to human rights should be redressed as soon as possible and in the most satisfactory way, singling out the Taijimen case. The latter is a manpai similar to a school of martial art, qigong, and self-cultivation that for almost 27 years has been suffering for the consequences of false accusation of tax evasions, which repeatedly were declared unfounded by all levels of the Taiwanese justice. Ms. Chen's commitment was very appropriate, since experts and academics are increasingly discussing the case of Taijimen every time religious liberty is on the table at the international level. Underlining that Taiwan abides by the rule of law, the president of the controlled UN said that a solution should be found, I quote, at the middle way, to both bring compensation to Taijimen Shifu or Grandmaster and Dizzy or disciples, and allow the Taiwanese government to stick to the separation of powers and the law of the land. This may mean that both Shifu and Dizzy should obtain substantial indemnification, while they will perhaps be asked to renounce to aspects of the confrontation Ms. Chen views as non-essential. Indeed, Ms. Chen accurately avoided to call her middle way solution a compromise, and this is in itself good news. The expression middle way evokes a reasonable and transparent agreement among people trusting each other. Her words even indirectly echoed the principle of the golden mean, of the desirable balance between two extremes, which was held dear by ancient Greek philosophers. It is also ideally connected to the golden rule, or treating others as one wants to be treated, that most, if not all, spiritual and philosophical ways preach and try to observe both East and West. In this, she was anticipated by Mr. Yu Shi-kun, Speaker of the Legislative Yuan, another branch of the Taiwanese government, that the delegation met on April the 6th for another important event. In fact, Speaker Yu pointed out that ROC ranks number 2 in Asia and number 18 in the world as to the respect of human rights, according to Freedom House. It means that Taiwan needs to build on this important record to soon correct all remaining errors and redress all remaining injustice. The control UN has work to do in face of the rogue and corrupt bureaucrats that denied Taijimen, Shifu, and Dizzy their right to religious liberty for more than a quarter of a century. The legislative yuan has work to do too, since the Taijimen case already settled by all levels of the Taiwanese justice is awaiting a final political solution and perhaps call for some laws to be amended. As scholars and human rights activists, we will continue to friendly and constantly observe the situation in Taiwan. We, in fact, believe that citizens' diplomacy can indeed achieve results in the Taijimen case. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I will give the floor now to Alexander Amicarelli from the Federation of for Freedom, European Federation for Freedom of Belief, FOB. The floor is yours, Alex.
Thank you very much, Willie. Good morning, evening, afternoon, everyone. As we always say, it's a pleasure to be here today with all of you. We have a new entry, Maria. It was very nice to listening to your presentation. As we know, there are issues in Argentina, just as there are issues in other so-called civilized countries, also in Europe. And very recently, there is a problem in Italy with a lady who claims to have visions from Mary, but because she doesn't belong to mainstream, she's having problems also with the authorities, because the authorities in Italy tend to follow the mainstream. Maybe we can have a discussion about this in another specific webinar. My role today is limited to introduce the disease, who are the vital essence of Taijimen and of our seminars and online webinars, because over the last 2 years, we have had this specific format of webinar. So in the first part, we have experts and scholars. And in the second part of the webinar, we have the testimonies of the disease. The reason why their presentations are very important is that because they give testimony about their experience in the problem faced by Taijimen, but they also give light about the good of being experiencing the bad while in a community like Taijimen. So without further ado, we can now watch a video about the visit of scholars to the Human Rights Museum in Taiwan. For some reasons, I couldn't join the group when in Taiwan, but in spirit, I was with all of you in Taiwan, and I was very happy to being able to follow all the works from remote. So we now have a video, and then we will start with the testimonies.
12 international human rights scholars from 8 countries in Europe and the United States visited Taiwan in mid-April 2023 on a week-long field trip organized by Winter magazine from the Center for Studies on New Religions and the Brussels-based NGO Human Rights Without Frontiers. Besides visiting the Legislative Yuan, the Control Yuan, and the National Human Rights Commission, they held forums and visited the National Human Rights Museum in Jingmei on April 8th. There are 2 locations for National Human Rights Museum. They are in New Taipei City and Green Island. Jingmei White Arrow Memorial Park was the venue for military, political, and social security trials and detentions during the White Arrow period. The military courts tried all the civilians and the military personnel who violated the Betrayers Punishment Act during the martial law period. In fact, the act was in violation of the Constitution, and it's worthwhile to reflect on the implementation of the democracy and freedom in Taiwan nowadays.
This place here gives you a direct testimony of that, and everyone should see it, not to repeat the mistakes that you blame your enemies about. Otherwise, you become just like the people you want to condemn and to fight, and you become evil as they are. This is an important reminder.
So this is more of a history remembrance museum. This is dedicated to the history of human rights, the history of human rights violations as well in Taiwan, of course, but not only looking at the past, but connecting it to the present and also looking to the future. So whether it's human rights violations, whether it's religious freedom violations, we're thinking about Taiji Min and the connections there. There's so many injustices that exist. So even if it's a political injustice, a religious injustice, a philosophical injustice, political persecution, whatever it is, they're all kind of under the same umbrella of violations and abuse.
The guide, Ms. Chen Qingshen, is a Malaysia Chinese who came to Taiwan to study but was falsely imprisoned for 12 years. As a former victim of the White Terror, he expressed his hope that people can cherish the hard-won democracy and freedom and avoid repeating the same mistakes by clarifying the truth of the incidents.
I want to forget the bad things of the past, but forgetting is impossible. So I changed my approach, that is, to use my past experience of suffering to educate young friends, so that they learn how to face his future setbacks and respect the hard-won democracy and freedom. This is the point. We hope that the most important thing for the transformation of Justice T is a clarification of the truth. It is not to provoke a dispute between any communities, and then we can sit down with each other and fight together for our land and our country.
For the collective memories, for the collective citizen to rebuild the state, to rebuild the nations together, we have to pass through this transitional justice. It's very important. Sometimes government and some not so ready to repair, because sometimes there are new government, they want to revise the past, but it's us as citizens, as civil society, to push through the society, to push the government to get the justice for those like this person that have been arrested, tortured in a way that is horrible.
As stated by Thierry Valle, Director of Coordination of Associations and Individuals for Freedom of Conscience, the people have the responsibility to urge the government to implement transitional justice for the sake of country's progress and development. To realize transitional justice, all the cases of persecution by the government should be rectified. Even though Taiwan's authoritarian period has passed, there are still many injustices occurring in Taiwan after the dissolution of martial law. In the face of current situation, as citizens, we have to keep our eyes open and urge the government to do the right thing, to protect our beautiful home together. Jessie Zheng, GPDN, Taipei.
Very nice video, like a summary of the visit of experts to Taiwan. We now start with the first witness, graduate student and Taiji Man Daisy, Mr. Tang.
Okay, thank you. Okay, hello everyone. I'm Jason, and currently a second-year graduate student. And today I would like to share everyone the story between me and Taiji Man. The Taiji Man case has been going on for 27 years, and I nearly grew up in the fights to clear the wrongful conviction. And many of my seniors, including my parents, devoted to best year of their life to this cause. And when I was a child, my father was hardly ever at home because of his involvement in the case. And I only had 15 minutes for breakfast and an hour for dinner with him every day. It wasn't until I grew up that I realized that he was still fighting for justice for the Taiji Man case. And it also made me realize that I had the responsibility to stand up and fight against the wrongful conviction. 10 years ago, it was my father who shouted on the streets in front of everyone, calling for justice. And 10 years later, I took over the microphone and continued to shout in the same place. And we are inheriting the value of justice, righteousness, and human rights. It's not just my family that uphold this value in Taiji Man. Under the guidance of our Shifu, we all know what is right and wrong, and we are clear about what we should persist in. And during this period, I witnessed that the Supreme Court of Taiwan acquitted Taiji of all charges and taxes in the third trial on July 13, 2007. And the Supreme Administrative Court also ruled in 2018 that Taiji is a Qigong and martial arts Menpai. And the erroneous tax bill should have been withdrawn in accordance with the court's decisions. However, the National Taxation Bureau has still defined the court's ruling and continue to forcefully collect taxes from Taiji. On what ground does the NTB collect taxes, and why does the executive power override the judiciary power? How can Taiwan, a democratic and rule of law countries, allow such things to happen? Okay, let's share a story with everyone. Our lab is engaged in accident reconstruction and analysis. And so my professor is often commissioned by the courts as an expert witness. Once we encountered an accident where a college student was hit and killed by a bus. And the final appraisal results show that the bus driver wasn't at fault, and the accident was caused by a student's violation of traffic rule. On the day of the trial, the situation was restored, and everyone think that if you were the parents of the college students, and you would be very angry and wanting to hit that appraiser. However, after the trial, the parents came to our professor and thanked him from letting them know how their son died and where he was wrong. They also say that they would use this experience as a warning to be cautious in the future. From this experience, officials of the NTB should really learn from the parents. Of course, we can all learn together. When someone points out your mistake, you should be grateful and reflect on your own mistake and correct them in a timely manner. Rather than refusing to admit your mistake for your own benefits and waste the people's youth and time. In March of this year, I followed my Shifu, Dr. Hong, to Turkey to attend the Eurasian Economic Summit. However, before we went, a major earthquake occurred in the area and causing tens of thousands of casualties. Some people ask if we still plan to go under these circumstances. And my immediate answer was maybe yes. However, my Shifu showed us the answer through his action. He let us practice the performance day and night for several days and reminded us that under these circumstances, we should prepare with even more focus. And during the conference, we performed the 8 immortals and phoenix dances, bless the affected area with stable and positive energy. We pray for the living to be safe and the dead to rest in peace. And also pray for peace and safety for all living beings. We also influence more leaders to work together for love and peace. Upon reflection, isn't this the spirit of martial art practitioner to help others and to serve others? When the 9/11 terrorist attack happened in the United States, my Shifu, without hesitation, and lead us to Hawaii to conduct a love and peace bell ringing ceremony, praying for the stability of people's mind and blessing for the United States. The same was true for the Taiji case. We used our own case to highlight the government's illegal action and systemic injustice and help people who were also persecuted by tax authorities. My Shifu led us to serve and help others in various ways and always being consistent and never change. Currently, the world's sustainability is facing serious challenge. Natural disaster and man-made disaster are reminding us We live on this earth to expect all global citizens to demonstrate multilateral solidarity and respond to United Nations multilateralism and diplomacy for peace day. The most important thing is to promote peace and eliminate crisis through conscious behavior, so that the whole world can truly achieve the goal of a clear conscience for everyone and peace for the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Jason. Very moving, I would say, and I see it like an invitation to everyone to join the Love and Peace movement. Thank you very much. And we now have the next DZ is a university student and Taijimen DZ, Miss Linda Chang. Please, Linda, the floor is yours.
Hello, host, and hello to all of our online friends. I'm a college student, and I'm very happy to have the opportunity to share my thoughts with everyone on such an important day. Today is the International Day of Multilateralism and Diplomacy for Peace. When I first heard the word multilateralism, I believe most people would have the same reaction as me. Huh? What is that? But actually, it's not as complicated as we imagine. I want to share with everyone what my Shifu, Dr. Hong Daozi, said in his speech on this day. Multilateralism means treating all countries freely on the basis of mutual respect, mutual benefit, and equal consultation, and jointly maintaining global security and stability. So, in simple terms, if all of us members of the global village can treat everyone with love and conscience, this world will become better and better. I have found that from my childhood to now, I deeply appreciate the progress of technology. However, people's hearts are increasingly unstable, and the suspicion and distrust between people are increasing, which has led to everyone's hearts becoming further and further away from each other. Even many terrible wars have actually taken place. But looking back, in fact, there is no such thing as a winner in every war. On the surface, this country has long land and rights, but what they have lost are countless people's lifelong efforts, even millions of precious lives, and it will also cause chaos between countries. Actually, love and peace are not as difficult to achieve as we imagine. In his speech, Dr. Hong Daozi also said, how can we alleviate and build peace? The key lies in everyone's conscience. I think if a society is to become better and better, it is not just the responsibility of the government, but the responsibility of every citizen. Conscience enables government officials to understand the perspective of the people and make society more progressive and happier. Conscience also enables us to make the right decisions in everyday life and move towards good goals. I'm very grateful to my father and mother because it was with their help that I had the opportunity to practice Qigong at Taijingmen from a young age. At Taijingmen, our Shifu teaches us to cultivate our own heart. The heart is the foundation of everything. There is a Chinese proverb that goes, water can carry a boat, but it can also capsize it. The heart is like that water. It can sustain us all our lives. But if we don't actively cultivate a positive mindset, we can get sick and even affect our lives. I am honored to be able to follow our Shifu to visit different countries and cities to do good deeds. For example, I once went to New York to attend the World Leaders Summit of Love and Peace, sharing messages of love and peace through singing and dancing. Witnessing influential leaders from around the world express their heartfelt wishes for a peaceful world was truly touching because it is the key to the sustainable development of the earth. Taijimen is a good organization that has been recognized and praised by many presidents and leaders throughout history. President Tsai Ing-wen once praised, under the leadership of the Zhangmenren, Taijimen actively promotes citizen diplomacy to the world and enhances Taiwan's visibility in the international community. Former President Ma Ying-jeou also praised, every time I see Taijimen, I see vitality, warmth, and love. I hope Taijimen can uphold their principles, let Taiwan stand out, and let the world come in. However, such a good organization has been subject to dual persecution by national judiciary and tax law since December 1996. After investigation by the Control Yuan, the case was included in Taiwan's major human rights protection cases, and the false accusation have lasted for more than 26 years. After investigation by the Control Yuan, prosecutor Hou Kuan-ren was found to have violated 8 serious legal violations, including violating the rules of non-disclosure investigation, illegal searches, freezing assets, exceeding his authority, and ordering the county and city governments to close the academies in violation of relevant provisions of the Code of Criminal Procedure. Regarding the discrepancies between the indictment and the evidence materials, the prosecution has been based on unfounded evidence and does not comply with the rules of evidence. Moreover, Prosecutor Hou also admitted during the investigation that he did not follow the law to obtain approval from the agency chief before sending letters to the Ministry of the Interior and various county and city governments requesting the dissolution of Taijimen. He admitted that the conviction was solely based on the testimony of one witness without further investigation being conducted. The Control Yuan also investigated the Taipei National Taxation Bureau, NTB, for failing to fulfill its responsibilities of verification and investigation, making significant errors in the calculations, failing to actively clarify the nature of the case, and the inquiry checklist created based on the results of income-based inquiries was carelessly recorded, and there was a lack of responsibility to pay equal attention to the advantages and disadvantages aspects of taxpayers. After spending countless efforts and resources to seek national remedies, the Supreme Court's 3 trials have confirmed that Taijimen is innocent and does not owe taxes. But the NTB ignored the court's judgment and, working with the Administrative Enforcement Agency, AEA, illegally auctioned off our planned land for self-cultivation. The dignified and upright national government actually led the way in bullying its own people. This scandal has attracted international attention, but the government still refuses to admit their wrongdoing. It is truly a shame in a democratic society. I appeal to all government officials to remember that you are public servants of the people. Please take responsibility and correct the mistakes of the officials who have violated the law and exonerate Taijimen. I hope everyone can take action together and use our conscience to lead us in the right direction, making ourselves and our society better. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Linda. I really enjoyed your speech, and I'm sure everyone was moved also because you are all young people, and it's particularly nice when we see young students so deeply involved in doing something good for the community and for everyone, because love and peace is for everyone, not just for Taijimen or from Taijimen. Everyone should be willing to join the movement. Thank you very much again. We now have one more university student and Taijimen DC, Mr. Lin. Andy Lin, the floor is yours for your presentation, please.
Hello everyone, I'm Andy Lin. I'm a child who grew up in Taiwan. I am also a college student studying civil engineering. Since I was a child, I think Taiwan is a good place for self-cultivation and physical fitness. When I was young, I only know Taiwan one thing is to benefit from chastity and modesty. I should obey the rules, be polite, smile on my face, and live happily every day. After I put on the exercise clothing and started to practice, I found that my asthma had improved and I dared to bask in the sun, even though I had photophobia. Before, Master also taught me a lot of principles in dealing with people and things. Temper, because it is difficult to change others, but it is easy to change myself. So I hope to do a good job of myself so that the environment around me can also be improved. However, such a good place as Taijuman was persecuted by persecutor Ho Kwan Ren in 1996. Therefore, when I grew up, I gradually realized that Taiwan's tax system still has a lot of room for improvement. So whether it is for myself or for the future of the country, I will definitely stand up when I have the opportunity for Taiwan to get better and better. At the same time, I also think that as a student, we should care about the society. Taxes are closely related to our lives. Do you know that? We have paid a lot of taxes since we were young. For example, when we buy a 10 NT dollars tea egg in the convenience store, there is sales tax in it. Our food, clothing, housing, and transportation are inseparable from taxes. However, illegal taxes should not be paid, and our government not only requires people to pay illegal taxes, but also requires people to prove why they do not need to pay illegal taxes. I have an actual case here to share with you. My relative is engaging the construction industry. He contracted an engineering company to undertake an earthwork project. When signing the contract, he checked the company's general business person sales and tax declaration book. But 3 years later, the National Taxation Bureau actually said that the company was a fake business number and the tax of the construction company was imposed. And the fine was triple and business tax was paid. The accountant of a construction company checked and provide the relevant contract certificates and materials. After explaining to the IRS say that the 3 times the fine would not be fined, but the business tax would be paid. However, the business tax had already been paid to the contractor in each of the previous valuation requests. It is double taxation at all. It is simply cheating the construction company as a fat cow. How many layers of skin should a cow be peeled off? After the aforementioned case, I found that since the government itself does not administer according to the law, I have checked the relevant information. The administrative litigation law stipulates that it is the administrative agency that has a burden of proof, not the people. Now, the IRS just issues a tax bill. The people are required to pay. Not only did not do the work of checking and producing evidence, but also the people have to prove why they don't have to pay illegal tax bills. They don't have to do what they should do, and they are not responsible. It is really unreasonable for the people to bear it. I hope that government officials will find their conscience and be responsible for their actions. I also hope that the tax incentives without legal sources can be abolished because they already have salaries, and there are more tax incentives. Punishment will only cause them to issue more illegal tax bills for bonuses, causing tax disaster everywhere in Taiwan. Who dares to start a company? Who dares to do business? Not to mention that foreign capital is unwilling to come to Taiwan. I am a civil engineering student. After seeing the tragic experience of my relatives, if my boss is also inexplicably chasing after tax when looking for a job in the future, so my job opportunity will be closed. Wouldn't it be less? No wonder everyone has no hope for the future. So I hope that young people like me can stand up bravely, reject the bad tax system loudly, call on the government to reform laws and taxes and awaken people's conscience. Young people have hope. The country will have hope. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Andy. And hope is what everyone needs, because without hope, if we are hopeless, we will be getting nowhere, because if we have hope, we have also commitment for doing what we want to do. Thank you very much again. Now, the next speaker is a university student and Taiji man, DC, Miss Lexi Chen. Please, Lexi, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lexi, a junior student in college. I'm glad to participating in the online forum of International Day on Multilateralism and Diplomacy for Peace with you. I grew up at the Taiji Man, where my Shifu, Dr. Hong Daozi, the Zhangmenren of Taiji Man, told us how to conduct ourselves in life, the most important of which is to carry out all acts with a clear conscience. I had also heard of the legendary stories of my Shifu and Shimu leading their 弟子 to various parts of the world for cultural performances. Watching the breathtaking and heartwarming cultural performances in the video, I found people's joyful and touched face from all nations were like the residents of the global village living in harmony, dancing, singing, and enjoying life together in a utopia. I also often saw my shifu shaking hands with influential and powerful people, presenting awards, ringing bells, and all in pursuit of the vision of love and peace. Even though I was young and naive, I could sense that love and peace was a beautiful and idealistic wish, and that cultural exchange through performances was a way to strive for world peace. In November 12, 2022, I represent the Federation of World Peace and Love as a volunteer at the 23rd Conferences of Chief Justice of the World held in India, accompanied by my Shifu and fellow Dizi. My Shifu issued the Declaration of World Day of the Power of Hope at the conferences to encourage leaders and peoples around the world to work together with conscience and wish power for their own safety and sustainable development, as well as that of others and the world. Through cultural exchanges, we promote the Peace Declaration, the Declaration for the Movement of an Era of Conscience, and the Declaration of World Day of the Power of Hope, which was signed by world leaders, organizers, teachers, and even students, including those from the City Montessori School in India where we stayed. After these experiences, I understood the true purpose of traveling the world to promote cultural exchanges and spread the ideas of love and peace. One person who read our declaration asked, "What have you done for world peace? How do you put it into practice?" A fellow Dizi replied, "Our Sifu leads us to travel around the world to promote the ideas of love and peace. This is how we put it into practice." Indeed, our Shifu tirelessly attends conferences, summits, and forums, big and small, to deliver his idea. We, his Dizi, also do our best to share and spread positive energy and good ideas through cultural exhibition, conferences, summits, and forums. We hope that by doing so, we can plant seeds of kindness in people's hearts, and even a word or a picture can become a source of positive influence in the nature. Recently, the serious global crisis of human trafficking has highlighted the dark and greedy side of human nature, making people anxious and alienated. People are becoming more indifferent and competing for resources, leaving the world scarred and battered. My Shifu said, "Good intentions and kindness are the positive energy that protects the sustainable development of the earth, and everyone is a leader of conscience. Only by using a conscience as a ruler to judge right from wrong and speaking and doing conscientiously can stop harm in time. Therefore, I urge influential leaders to work together with a conscience to promote the well-being of all people and change the cyclic society. Prices rise while real wages stagnate. Excessive tax collection intensifies year after year, and nation debt doesn't decrease, highlighting the shortcomings of Taiwan's financial system. For instance, when citizens receive an unreasonable tax bill and appeal to the National Taxation Bureau, tax officials require taxpayers to prove their innocence. No matter how much people plead or explain, the MBT may intimidate they with how much more they must pay or threaten to investigate 5 years prior. This tactic is one of the methods used to extort. If citizens apply for a review and the reviewing officer belongs to the finance department, if people don't accept the result of the review and want to apply for an appeal, they need to pay 1/3 of the tax or provide collateral, or their asset will be seized or confiscated. But why should people bear the cost of the government's unlawful tax bill? If tax officials charge exorbitant fees, where will ordinary people come up with the money to pay 1/3 of tax amount? They become tax disaster victims, turning into the government's piggy bank. How many people have lost their jobs, gone bankrupt, or even died because of this? Wu Pei-chen, a tax disaster victim, also suffered greatly from wrongful taxes, and her life plunged into darkness as a result. If your appeal fails, you are forced to file an administrative lawsuit, hoping the judge will uphold justice. However, Taiwan's administrative court, known as the losing court and the rejection court, has a people's winning rate of only about 6%. If you can pay the illegal tax and fees, the tax authorities will confiscate your property and give you non-legal recourse. Tax officials may even receive tax incentives without a legal basis. Faced with illegal tax bills and unreasonable administrative relief system, people are like lambs of the slaughter, being slaughtered at will. The government should be the public servant of the people, but now the people have become victims of the corrupt tax system. I want to urge the government officials to govern with a caution, restore the tax rights of the people, and adjust and implement tax reforms. I hope the international community can also pay attention to Taiwan's tax system problems. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Lexi, also for your enthusiasm in giving your presentation. Thank you very much. And we now have one more testimony, retired teacher and Taijimen, Daisy, Miss Rowena Lee. Please, Rowena, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good day, everyone. I'm Rowena, a retired teacher. It's a great honor to participate in this online seminar on the International Day of Multilateralism and Diplomacy for Peace to discuss the urgency of resolving the Taijimen case. As we all know, the UN adopted a resolution on December 12th, 2018, with the aim of fulfilling the central mission of the United Nations Charter, seeking international peace and security through peaceful conflict resolution and protecting future generations from the horrors of war. Unfortunately, it is regrettable that the Russian-Ukrainian conflict has been ongoing for over a year and 2 months now. According to reports from the UK, the death toll in Ukraine due to the conflict with Russia has reached 60,000 people. Some EU member states have also made donations of ammunition to Ukraine. The EU also recently adopted a resolution allocating 1 billion euros in compensation to these member states who have been aiding Ukraine. If this war had not happened, these 60,000 people could still be working and living happily with their families. And the 1 billion euros could be used to develop education or the economy, which would benefit all global citizens, rather than just to patch up holes caused by war. I heard the Taiwanese general once say, peace is priceless and peace has no losers. War is ruthless and there are no winners. I think this is why my Sifu, Dr. Hong Daozi, the Zhangmenren of Taijimen, leads his deeds to travel to over 100 countries to spread the message of love, peace, and conscience in the past 2 decades. On January 1st of 2014, the Federation of World Peace and Love, Association of World Citizens, and the Taijimen Qigong Academy jointly launched the movement of an era of conscience, generating positive commitments and actions from people and organizations in 200 countries. My Sifu said, kind intentions and good hearts are the positive energies necessary to safeguard the Earth's sustainable development. When the energies of virtue are connected, spread, and expanded, the ideal world of love and peace will be realized. Today, the world faces greater obstacles than ever before, including violent conflicts, wars, poverty, diseases, starvation, global instability, and climate change. My Sifu, Dr. Hong, reminds the world leaders to unite for the global welfare and to collaborate on programs and projects that will benefit all. He encourages all his Dizi to persist in doing the right things and leads the Federation of World Peace and Love and the Taijimen Qigong Academy to hold cultural exchanges, ceremonies of ringing the bell of world peace and love, and the World Summits of Love and Peace in order to promote appreciation and respect for different cultures, as well as to ignite the goodwill and kindness of all and consolidate their consensus. His unselfish love for the world has won numerous awards and affirmations from all over the world, such as the US President's Lifetime Achievement Award, the Global Peace Award at the International Religious Music and Art Festival, the Mahatma Gandhi Award, etc. However, to this day, the Taiwan National Taxation Bureau, NTB, has not followed the final court decision that determined Taijimen Qigong Academy to be innocent and free from tax liabilities, as well as the Supreme Administrative Court's decision that Taijimen is the Qigong martial arts manpai for self-cultivation and revoked all the unlawful tax payment orders. Instead, in August 2020, the NTB and the Administrative Enforcement Agency jointly auctioned up Taijimen's Spiritual Self-Cultivation Center. In other words, an outstanding group recognized by numerous countries around the world has been persecuted for 27 years in its own country, but has firmly endured the pain and communicated the culture of law, peace, and conscience with influential people around the world. Taijimen is obviously a world treasure, and it is not surprising that more and more scholars and experts have voluntarily voiced their support for Taijimen. International non-governmental organizations have submitted written reports to the United Nations Human Rights Council regarding the Taijimen case 7 times already, and international experts have co-signed the letters expressing concern to President Tsai Ing-wen, hoping for an early return of innocence and justice to Taijimen's Sifu and the deeds. The efforts and resources that Taijimen and its deeds have invested in correcting this wrongful case have far exceeded the amount of the illegal tax payment orders issued by the NTB. However, Dr. Hong Daozi, the Zhangmenren, has reminded his deeds that taxes that should not be paid cannot exceed a penny. Doing otherwise would only encourage corrupt officials to continue their misconduct without reform and would be unable to create a peaceful, democratic environment. As a result, people and their descendants will continue to suffer. In the pursuit of tax justice, we have discovered that Taiwan has many tax disaster victims. For example, public interest lawyer Huang Wenhuang was arbitrarily taxed by the NTB, causing him to nearly commit suicide by jumping up his apartment. The scholar Ye Yangchun returned to Taiwan with DNA chip technology, but was restricted from leaving Taiwan and resulted in the separation of his family. In addition, Dr. Luo, the Taiwanese Edison, was tragically persecuted by the NTB, leaving him with hundreds of billions of dollars in debt and no place to call home. Chen Qingxu owed only 18,000 NT dollars in fees, but the NTB had his ancestral home auctioned off. As for Jian Yongsong, he did not have a business, but was taxed excessively. If these tragedies continue to occur in Taiwan, they will ultimately become a national crisis. Taijimen Sifu and Dizi are fighting for everlasting fairness and justice, hoping to use the concept of love and peace to resolve all disputes, and hoping that everyone can live a happy and fulfilling life. My Sifu reminds people that love, peace, conscience, and human rights are core values essential to the sustainable development of humanity. Unless International Day of Multilateralism and Diplomacy for Peace, I urge the Taiwan government to fight its conscience, muster the courage to face historical mistakes, and quickly resolve the Taijimen false case in order to regain the reputation of being the beacon of Asian democracy. This will attract foreign investment with a fair and transparent tax system, create business opportunities, retain young talents for employment in Taiwan, and unite and cooperate to help Taiwan's economy take up again. The Taijiman case is so absurd, and if not resolved, it will only be a mockery to international community. Looking at Taijiman deeds, ending enduring hardships, feeling pity for the suffering of the people, I believe that heaven will eventually punish corrupt officials, and that the courage, unity, compassion, and wisdom of Taijiman Sifu and deeds go down in history. That's my sharing. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Miss Lee. It's nice to have the testimonies also from people from other generations, and we really appreciate your presentation. And I personally believe that you can yourself inspire the younger members of Taijiman with your own personal experience in the group and experiencing the problems that Taijiman faced over the years. Thank you very much. And now, before giving the floor to the inspiring father of the webinar, to Massimo Introvigne, I just want to remind everyone that there is kind of an online encyclopedia of the Taijiman case on the website www.taijimancase.org. Everyone can find a number of presentations, videos, speeches, and other material on the Taijiman case, which really works as an encyclopedia of the Taijiman case. It is now my pleasure to give the floor to Massimo Introvigne, founding director of Bitter Winter and founder of the Center for Studies on New Religions and many other important initiatives. Massimo, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you very much to Alessandro Micarelli, Willy Fautré, and Marco Respinti for their leadership. Thank you to the DZ for their moving testimonies of young and old practitioners of Taijimen. And thank you to Maria for having reminded us that problems of stigmatized and persecuted movements exist in many parts of the world. Many speakers in this International Day of Multilateralism and Diplomacy have focused on multilateralism. And I would like to focus on diplomacy, but being in Australia, I will get to diplomacy through crocodiles. Near Port Douglas, Queensland, from where I'm speaking today or tonight, lies the largest and oldest rainforest in the world, called the Daintree Rainforest, and it has been there from millions of years. Several dangerous animals roam the forest and its rivers, and one of the most deadly is the Australian crocodile. While on a boat tour, we were fortunate to spot what is known to the locals as the most vicious and aggressive male crocodile of the forest, who lies in hiding, waiting for its prey, and is rarely spotted. Locals call it Old Nick, and it is from this name that I will draw our conclusions tonight. Why is a particularly vicious crocodile called Old Nick? Well, Australia used to be part of the British Empire, and in British English, Old Nick is the name of the devil. It is believed that the devil had a first name, and this first name is Nicholas. More precisely, his name is Nikolaus, the oldest version of the given name, and hence Nick. Interestingly, Nikolaus in English folklore is the first name of both the devil, the quintessential bad guy, and of the quintessential good guy, known as Santa Claus. The name Santa Claus derives, in fact, from Saint Nicolaus. The devil and the smiling old man bringing gifts to children at Christmas share the name Nicolaus. For centuries, Santa Claus was called in Britain Saint Nick, while the devil was Old Nick. However, they acquire their names based on two different historical characters whose first name was Nikolaus. Santa Claus takes his name from the immensely popular Christian bishop Nicolaus of Myra, who died in 343 CE. Although Bishop Nicolaus came from present-day Turkey, it was in the Italian city of Bari, where the main part of his body is buried in the local cathedral, that a legend was born which then traveled internationally. The story was that after his death, the good Bishop Nicolaus was asked by Jesus to work with him and bring gifts at Christmas to children who had been good during the year. The devil, on the other hand, acquired his name Nicolaus, or Old Nick, in England from Nicolaus, Italian Niccolò Machiavelli, the most famous Italian diplomat and author of books on politics and diplomacy of the Renaissance, and perhaps of all times. He worked for the Republic of Florence and died in 1527. In English, the word Machiavellian still indicates a cunning and astute scheme. In the popular lore of the British Islands, after they turned Anglican or Protestant and started denouncing the Catholic Church as corrupted, Machiavelli incarnated all Italian Catholics were accused of, meaning of continuously inventing devious schemes to prevail against their enemies. Not only the first name of Machiavelli was given to the devil, but diplomacy and politics, particularly as practiced by foreigners, acquired a bad reputation. Machiavellian diplomacy was one that may succeed, but will do it by using lies, deception, and immoral methods. In Italy, however, Machiavelli was differently interpreted. While some would agree that he was, as German-American political philosopher Leo Strauss called him in the 20th century, a teacher of evil, there is an entirely different Italian tradition, epitomized by the famous 1806 poem by Ugo Foscolo, I Sepolcri, Sepulchres, which describes, among others, the grave of Machiavelli in the Church of Holy Cross in Florence. Foscolo's poem portrays Machiavelli as Machiavellian, but in the sense that by pretending to teach princes and diplomats how to lie and deceive, he was in fact denouncing to the readers of his books their tyranny and immorality. It's not in my written text, but many Italian students know the poem by heart, and so for Alessandro Micarelli and Marco Respinti, I will add that for Foscolo, Machiavelli is the great man who, temprando lo scettro ai regnatori, gli allorne sfronda e dalle genti svela di che lacrime grondi e di che sangue. So, pretending to teach princes and diplomats to lie, in fact, he reveals to his readers that they lie. Well, we don't know what was Machiavelli's real intention. The jury is still out. But what Machiavelli described, either to recommend or to subtly denounce it, was a diplomacy without conscience. It may look brilliant, but many who commented on Machiavelli noted that hidden in his works is the idea that a diplomacy totally separated from morality and conscience may achieve results occasionally, but in most cases and in the long run will not work. There are two lessons here for the Taijimen case which resonate with the papers of our webinar. First, we should acknowledge the great work of Taijimen's Shifu Grandmaster, Dr. Hong Daozi, in bringing the message of conscience to the temple of modern diplomacy, the United Nations. Adding the International Day of Conscience to the list of UN days of observance was also a warning against the risk of a diplomacy without conscience. Second, today's webinar reminded us of the importance of a new diplomacy, citizen diplomacy, which comes from below rather than from above, from the state. It is practiced by NGOs, human rights activists, and academics. Dr. Hong and Taijimen are themselves examples of good practices in the field of citizen democracy, having brought their conscience-based peace education to more than 100 countries. Yet, at the same time, Taijimen may today need the help of a citizen diplomacy from abroad to solve its domestic problems in Taiwan, as Willy Fautré reminded us. In this sense, we who are not disciples of Taijimen, but scholars and observers sympathetic to their cause, we are all citizen diplomats. The recent trip of some of us to Taiwan, that others have mentioned it today, was precisely an exercise in citizen diplomacy. However, we decide to read him. Machiavelli listed as the three features of effective diplomacy: caution, art, meaning the mastery of a number of technical tools, and above all, the third feature, patience. The abnormal length of the Taijimen case may have exhausted the patience of the dizzy, but it is now the time of the patience for the citizen diplomats who second and continue the dizzy's fight. A patient diplomacy, as Machiavelli said, will often achieve the result. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Massimo, for your lecture. This was more than a conclusion, it was a real lecture. Thank you very much for that, very inspiring. And I must say that I noticed a small crocodile under your jacket. I hope that's a good nick, not a bad one. Now, before going to the real conclusion, I pass the mic back to Willy Fautré for introducing the final video of today's webinar. Thank you very much again, everyone. And again, www.taijimencase.org is a real encyclopedia of the Taijimen case for everyone, for those who know nothing about it, for those who heard about it, and for those who want to study more about it. Please, Willy, the floor is back to you. I guess there is a problem with Willy's microphone. So what I can do, I will introduce the final video. I hope Willie doesn't mind.
Yes.
Okay.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Okay, you're back. Thank you. Okay, the final video is the story of Dragon Dance. And it's a little bit long, but it will be very nice to watch it together with all of you. Thank you very much again.
In ancient Oriental culture, the dragon is the most mysterious totem. Dragon dance and lion dance are the must-have in every important festival and celebration. The dragon sculptures outside the temples and halls symbolize the protection to people and the hope of good weather and prosperity. Divine Dragon is the leader of the great four auspicious beasts. Divine Dragon brings fortune. The dragon has a high status and special meaning to people. In addition, Divine Dragon represents the power of the king to bless the world and bring peace and stability. The culture of the dragon is a precious spiritual and cultural asset. In Taiji Men, an ancient menpai, similar to school, the maintenance cultural lifeline and the sacred mission of promoting culture are continued through the transmission from Shifu, the master, to Dizi, disciples. Under the guidance and instruction of Shifu, the Dizi not only learn to craft the various auspicious beasts, but also understand the meaning and wisdom through the process. With respect to the Divine Dragon, the Taiji Men Dizi trek through the dense bamboo forests in search of the dragon in their hearts. They went through the bamboo forest over the hills and mountains in order to find the most suitable bamboo. The bamboos have been growing for years in the surrounding of beautiful waters and mountains. These bamboos would be honored if they would know that they will become part of the testimony of culture and history. Starting from searching the suitable bamboos and chopping them. These Dizi from all walks of life who have never crafted a dragon before are learning this ancient artwork step by step. In the process of manufacturing, one of the Dizi explained in detail the principles and showed a further demonstration with a mold. The brothers and sisters were helping each other to learn. All were working hard. Even the smallest gesture reveals a great deal of care. Although they were inexperienced and unfamiliar with the tools, they all wanted to work together to fulfill the dream of creating a dragon. All our hearts slowly united and produced the circles one by one. Every detail of the Divine Dragon is important. Shufi and Shamu, Mr. and Mrs. Master, of the ancient menpai always lead by example and guide their Dizi to deal with every detail in the procedure with care and diligence. The circle cannot be made without care and diligence. The same principle is also applicable to our daily life and dealings. Each of these loops were properly interlocked to form the skeleton of the dragon, and the outfit was made stitch by stitch. It took tens of thousands of hours to inlay the dragon's body with the shining scales, giving it a glorious finish. Divine dragons were completed one by one through the joint efforts of Shufi and Dizi. Our cultural treasures of thousands of years have been preserved by passing down from generation to generation. A dragon is comprised of several sections. The dragon dancers must be united as one, align with the dragon ball, the dragon head and the dragon body, in order to bring out the vitality and spirit of the dragon. The Taiji Men dragon has compassion and love for the world and sublime wisdom, and is brave when facing challenges. In front of the presidential hall, the largest, longest and brightest 144-meter Taiji Men dragons, the Golden Dragon and the Green Dragon, performed the majestic double dragon show, creating the most stunning moment in the history of Taiwan's cultural performances. Then in the square in front of the presidential hall, the 5 dragons symbolizing the 5 elements of gold, wood, water, fire, and earth, performed and changed cleverly in the formations with the hope of safeguarding the state's luck and blessing every living creature in Taiwan. The dragon traveling around the world to become a great dragon. July 1999, Taiji Men was invited by the state of Washington to Seattle for the 50th anniversary of the Seafair Festival. The Taiji Men group was comprised of one of the biggest teams with more than 1,000 DZ and the 5 dragons of 5 elements. In this marine-themed festival, the Taiji Men group attracted the most attention. It was also the first time the American public saw such vivid dragons. In a series of performances, the dragon has traveled to many locations in Seattle and San Francisco. The Spirit Dragon, a symbol of the festive season, and the Happy Dragon, a symbol of the celebratory mood, are cheered with the greatest enthusiasm wherever they go. Taiji Men has achieved significant cultural diplomacy for Taiwan. On September 21, 1999, an unprecedented earthquake struck Taiwan. In order to comfort and encourage the unsettled society, by the invitation of the county and city governments, Taiji Men was presenting harmony to the community, promoting new opportunities for the nation, praying for the well-being of all mankind, and opening a new page for the new century with "The Divine Dragon Goes Around." The county and city governments welcomed the new millennium. Throughout Taiwan, 15 divine dragons performed at the same time. Each performance represents a close cooperation between of government and private sectors, just like the sections connected in a dragon. Led by the local governments, each of us are part of the team. Only when everyone's hearts united together, will we be able to drive our country like a shining dragon into the future. January 2000, the first month of new millennium, the largest, longest and brightest of the 144-meter Taiji Men dragons, the Golden Dragon and the Green Dragon, lead the Taiji Men dragon family to bring good luck, good fortune, and blessings to the nation. For the love of our country and society, Taiji Men was the grand finale of the National Day celebration of year 2000. We pray for the prosperity of our country, the security of our society, the well-being of our people, and the happiness of all with the motto, art and martial art to prosper our nation, strength and happiness, golden century. Let's go beyond the top. Taiji men dragons have soared through the skies and traveled to all 5 continents. They mark several records in those important celebrations and festivals domestically and internationally, and brought immense blessing to people around. From crafting a dragon to dragon dance, from Western countries to Eastern nations, through a series of initiatives. Taiji men has proved that the ancient menpai has a profound meaning in modern society and has invented a new life for the ancient culture. Taiji men is an ancient menpai of Qigong, martial arts and self-cultivation for more than 6,000 years, with a lineage of Shufi and Dizi since ancient times. Under the guidance of Shufi, Dizi's hearts are enlightened up with compassion, courage and true wisdom. We hope that the power of all will be brought together to illuminate the conscience of the world at this chaotic moment. Only when everyone's conscience is awakened and join hand in hand, will we be able to unite to form a brilliant dragon who shines in the sky and guide the world the way of light. 2023 brings the new opportunity for Taiwan and for the world. We hope that everyone in the world would collaborate together like the linkage of a dragon and to pave the way to the new century of love and peace for ourselves and for next generations.
Very nice video, amazing performances, as always.
Yeah. Really.